Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This channel is going to be everything from deck techs, combos, but also encompassing more, if that makes sense. We're going to talk about everything from sitting down and playing in an actual pod of Commander to standard to the hot new or the hot bad or new bad, if you will. First thing I want to talk about, though, is the the likelihood of survival for paper magic. I know during the pandemic it lost a little luster and then afterwards picked back up. But going further, let's talk about being an ambassador to Magic the Gathering. There's already a negative stigma with people who play. And then you go to your local LGS, and the stigma is sometimes made true. You get that group that plays by themselves, we'll call them the elitist. It's the pod that's been there forever. They're the regulars. You're the new guy. You're just sitting down, or gal, and you're just sitting down for the first time. And let's say you're new. You've got an upgraded pre-con, or maybe one you've played with here and there, and they immediately ask, "Hey, what's your power level?" You explain, "Oh, I'm using this Sephiroth of the Hidden Ways pre-con that I've tweaked here and there." And immediately they all smile to each other. One pulls out Ulamog and says, "Well, here's my commander." One pulls out Turgrid. That's another great one. That's always lovely. And then another one, maybe Krinko or something of that nature. So you're automatically dealing with a higher power level, and you know where your deck stands. But really, being an ambassador, if you're one of those in the group that play with the regulars, and I'd like to know your opinions in the comments. Let me know what you think as far as how you accept newer players. Let's say you purposely play in that pod and you are one of the elitists, and I don't use that in a negative context. I mean along the lines of you are one of those regulars. You're kind of the big boy or big girl pod, and people are hesitant to be like, "Hey, you got a game," because you play with your regulars. But as an ambassador to Magic the Gathering, do you, "Hey, there's a new one, come on in," especially if you know it's a newer player. They pull out, we'll say Sephiroth, we'll say I don't know, any of the other, lower power level kind of janky precons, if you will. And then what do you do? Do you just want to shoot fish in a barrel, go club ceiling, steamroll them, if you will? Or do you actually, accept, hey, in your head, they're playing a power level 2 or 3 or maybe 4 at the best. Maybe it's slightly optimized. And you say, I can either pull out my Kozilek deck, or I can go ahead and just entertain. Maybe I have that one jank deck that I use against them. The elitists, if you will, the actual ambassadors. I mean, paper magic's hard enough to keep up with. When I started playing in the mid 90s, it was one block of cards every 2 years. And I thought that was expensive, first of all. So I wasn't able to get all the hot new cards. I wasn't able to keep up with my friends who were buying, Ice Age, Alliances. I was the guy who was scrounging change to buy Fallen Empires, Gothalids. But you had those people who were, "Oh, I've got this deck that's based around Jester's Masks, and I'm just going to remove whatever win cons you may have." That was way back then. I know I'm dating myself. But I was sitting down with the deck predominantly Fallen Empires. If it wasn't, Homerids or Thalids, then I wasn't really, I don't know, you could say I wasn't really making much of a splash in the one-on-one format. And then I flash forward to Commander. I've been playing it off and on for years. I actually had to leave when Tempest came out because I thought it was expensive then. I take a break, life happens, and then I get back into it, and the early 2000s. Still, it's okay. It's one block every 2 years, and that's fine. I got back into it for Mercadian Masks, and I followed it all the way until I want to say Darksteel came out, and then again life happened. I took a break, and then I found out about Commander when I moved back to the United States. I had to go live abroad for a few years, and upon finding out that this new format, I was immediately in love with it because I said, "Wow, you can use all your old cards that would have otherwise not allowed to be used unless you find that one guy that's like, oh, I play Legacy, I play Vintage, I play Pioneer." Or maybe you just have those ones that are like, hey, I play Standard, but I'll allow it. So I really started getting into Commander. That's a little bit of background about me. Been playing since about 1994, off and on again. I'm really Commander is the only format I'll play now, and it blows my mind because I'm quiet when I go to my LGS, and I play with everyone. I play in those elite pods, but I'll also play with the new guys. I play in my elite pod, and I'll be like, okay, I'm not gonna, no matter what, I see the decks they're playing, and if they're using some, I don't know, if they're using some kind of precon or set precon and I know they're newer, I get that sense that they're newer. I'm not immediately going to reach for my more powerful decks. I'm going to try to keep it on the low level because I want to be entertained. I want them to be entertained, but most importantly, I'm the kind of person that wants them to feel, I guess, welcome to come back. Because my first couple of trips to an LGS in the 90s. It was rough when I was a kid first learning how to play. I got cheated out of trades while their buddies watched me. They knew what they were doing. They knew what their buddies were doing. I was told big numbers meant a lot, and back then you didn't have internet or smartphones to corroborate prices. So if I knew then what I knew now, shame on me. But it may be bad condition, albeit horrible condition, but a friend of mine gave me some free cards, and then when I first started playing, because he didn't want to have anything to do with it, and in one of those was actually a Mox Jet. It was beaten. I mean, bad. Look at the back of it. It was. I couldn't play it without sleeves, and I couldn't afford sleeves. I mean, again, I was the guy who was doing Fallen Empires, and a guy convinced me, hey, you got this card. Because he went through my tiny little box. I had a box that could maybe hold 300 cards, and I had my deck in there and every other card I owned in there, the ones that my buddy gave me. And he said, well, you can't use this card. It's not allowed. And I was like, yeah, I think I heard something about that. I didn't know the rule about mono artifact or anything. But, shame on me. He did trade. His friends were present. He took that Mox Jet from me, and in return, I got 4 Scaled Worms and 2 Shivan Dragons. Seemed like a good deal back then. I thought the bigger the numbers, the better my deck. And what better to boost Thalids than a bunch of 7/6 Ice Age Scaled Worms? Again, Ice Age was that hot new, and I couldn't afford Ice Age, so I was the change scrounger for Fallen Empire. So anyways, long story short, I made the trade, realized a few years later, wow, I'm an idiot. But that, if I had known what had happened, then would I have come back to play? And I'd like to know what you all think in the comments. What makes a good ambassador to the game? Is it sticking to your elitist pod? Because again, I've been on both sides of the tracks here. Is it sticking to your elitist pod and only playing against the bros or the gals and the hardcore clique? You all know. Or is it taking time to say, hey, this person just sat down with their precon and they don't even have sleeves, so I'm gonna go and show them the ropes, or so a lot of people we've sat down. I know Bungle and I both have sat down where at an LGS here when we were living in the same state, and people kind of almost smirk to each other like, oh, we're gonna destroy these noobs. And of course they break out their big power level, sevens, eights, and nine decks against our jank. I do know better. I do know what I'm doing, but I don't play infinite combos. Like, I'll purposely not play them just so I could have fun with the deck and give other people a chance. Every now and again, one might accidentally come out. I'll stop it. I've even been known to sacrifice the, what is it, Revel in Riches. I purposely sacrifice the tokens so I don't hit that alt win con. I don't use alt win con cards. XYZ, you win the game, or XYZ, target player loses the game. I do run the God Pharaoh, Nico Bolas, in one of my Super Friends decks, but that I'll never ult that. To me, it's just a fun jank, and I kind of use it as a meat shield. But it's just my preference. Again, that's another comment I'd like to for y'all to kind of leave and provide us with some feedback. I also would like, what kind of person are you? Do you get nervous when you go to a new LGS? Do you automatically, are you just outgoing and friendly? Hey, I'll sit down, I'll play a game with you. You hope to have a good experience, a positive interaction there, if you will. Or do you just want to, and I know everybody's there to just play Magic, but are you trying to single out those ones that literally want to reach across the table and maybe punch you in the face because you didn't know about their rule zero, and you throw down an Armageddon, and then you play, Crucible of Worlds, and they're just pissed? We've had that happen too. And it's just kind of like, what to me, I would like your opinions. What to you, I guess, for me, would make a good ambassador to the game? Is it taking time to teach other people? Is it showing them the ropes, or is it just kind of avoiding them and letting the new players play, or the newer players play against the new players, so they can kind of build experience off each other? And then what do you think if you're not one of those elitists, or in that group, the it clique? How would you feel about somebody sitting down and wanting to play? Would you allow it, or would you be against it? Anyways, again, I hope this is one of many future videos to come. I do hope for your input. Again, just your opinion on what makes a good ambassador to a game that already carries stigmas, a game that's already expensive, a game that you already have to put X, Y, and Z into, or this amount of time, or this amount of money. And hopefully, if everything goes well, I'll be able to provide you with some extra deck tech, box openings, and things like that. All right, y'all take care. Have a good night.